Okay, hear me out. It's gonna sound crazy, but I had a shower thought this morning. In fact, it wasn't even a shower thought, I was in the bath. That thought was that Modern Warfare 3 may just be the best Call of Duty that we will ever receive in recent years. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Will, what are you on about? No game is going to top the old Modern Warfare series or the old Black Ops 2s and so on and so forth. But, hear me out, okay? Just hear me out on this. I'm going to try and separate this into as many sort of main categories as I can, so I don't go off track too much. There's pretty much a good chance that this game is going to be very much more surprising than everyone thought it was going to be. So without further ado, let's jump in. So first things first, I want to talk about the major innovations for this game. So if you don't know, this game is actually going to start off with a lot of content already in the game, primarily because of the fact that Modern Warfare 2's content is crossing over into Modern Warfare 3. There is going to be that boost for the game. The game's going to have all of what Modern Warfare 2 had coming into it. So any of the same guns and operators that are shared in both games, you can also select the camos or skins and whatever on those guns and people, and you can basically use content that was in the previous game on this game, and you can start grinding it if you didn't do it in Modern Warfare 2, which I think is a great idea for people who are new, maybe people who have Modern Warfare 2, but they didn't finish the grind, or perhaps they wanted to use those camos or those skins or whatever in the Modern Warfare 3. They can do that with this innovation, and that's something we've not seen in any of the previous Call of Duty games as far as it's existed. So this is the first game that's going to allow that kind of crossover. Obviously, the nearest we've come to that kind of crossover sort of thing is Warzone, when Warzone allowed you to use stuff from the main games in the Battle Royale, but that's not really too crazy considering Warzone was always attached to whatever the recent game was. This is a full-blown game that is allowing crossovers from a previous game, and I know it's mainly because of the fact that the game is basically the same. Still, that hasn't been done before, and I think this is a huge thing for Call of Duty that hasn't been done. So that immediately already gives points towards this game. And another thing that I've noticed for this game is there's a zombies mode. There has never been a zombies mode in a Modern Warfare game to release. There's never been one. This is the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare title that will have a zombies feature, which, yes, there might be the argument that it's not really zombies, it's kind of Outbreak, and it's not really round based on what people want, but I'll get into a little bit more about that when we get onto one of the other cards. As far as it's going with innovations, this game has probably got the best graphics by far, because it's taken what Modern Warfare 2 did and it's improved on it in certain areas, and Modern Warfare 2 was by far the most graphically improved game of all the releases, so this is going to be the best by far. So that also gives this game a huge boost above all the other previous cards in terms of its graphical improvements. So you've got the graphical improvements, you've got the new innovated systems allowing people to transfer content between different games and have multiple camo grinds, with a new camo grind coming into place, which just means lots more content overall. You also just have that whole element of being able to have a new mode that's never been done in a Modern Warfare game. So now that we're done talking generally about, the innovations for this game, how there's a lot of content, that takes us smoothly into Call of Duty returning to its roots. So for this topic, I want to just kind of talk about, mainly most of the stuff that's coming to this game. So like I mentioned, there's already going to be, Modern Warfare 2 stuff that's crossed into this game, but we also get the Modern Warfare 3 content itself, which most of it is very promising. It is 16 Modern Warfare 2 maps, I think the original, that are returning to this game. So off rip, we're getting a bunch of remastered OG maps in the game. We're returning to red dots on mini-maps, so the old mini-map feature's coming back, where if you fire an unsilenced weapon, you will appear on the mini-map, giving away your locations. We're also noticing that map voting is coming back. That shouldn't have ever been taken out in the first place, let's be real, but to see that in Modern Warfare 3 is going to be amazing. Just having map voting come back, that is something that we definitely need, and it's allowing people to actually have more choice over what game they play instead of being forced onto a map because, the game doesn't want to waste its materials that they've thrown at a massive map that no one wants to play. So we get the choice and the freedom of playing the maps we want to play. And on top of all that, You get slide cancelling coming back there, which is something that was introduced in 2019 and people really liked it. That's coming back. They're improving the movement. They're actually meshing together the movement from Modern Warfare 2, so dolphin diving and all that sort of stuff. And dolphin diving was indeed in some of the older cards. So having dolphin dive come back, and also the sliding's going to feel good. You're going to have the slide cancelling. The movement in general is going to be quicker. We're not going to have as much bogged down movement in terms of ADS and all that sort of. It's going to be very snappy and responsive, which is what people want. That in general is a huge part of Call of Duty. I think that's really kind of why recent Call of Duties have been dying and haven't been doing as well. I had a whole video about that actually up here, and I discussed that in a lot of depth about X-Defiant versus CARD and why I thought that X-Defiant was dominating CARD and why people were saying it was going to be the killer for Call of Duty, because games like Modern Warfare 2 do lack in their movement, and movement's very addictive. It's one of the key components that really determines whether a game's going to be fun to revisit and play. It's not just about gunplay and graphics. So considering movement's very important, they are obviously bringing back that sort of free flow movement that's not weighed down with lots of animation, and it's quick and responsive, and having the slide cancel come back. Everything just seems to generally be returning to its roots, or at least taking the good things from previous cards that they've done in the recent years and putting it into here. And it's nothing but a positive. I'm also pretty sure, obviously, this kind of comes back into the major innovations and the updates, just the general updates for the game. In general, we are going to get new content in general, like new Modern Warfare 3 content. Not all of it's going to be completely, old stuff, but that's a great thing in general. Most people wanted all this stuff for a long time, and the fact that we're getting it with this game off rip, we're not having to beg for it, we're getting everything we needed from the past 5-10 years back in this game. The basic fundamentals of Call of Duty, the addictive gameplay, everything is going to make the game work better. It's going to stop as much campers. We're going to have a new feature like gloves for your hands. They're kind of like tactical gear that allows you to further speed up your movement as well if you really want to, and the way you handle your guns and all that sort of stuff. And they are obviously implementing Dead Silence Ninja and that sort of stuff into perks again, so you can move quickly with those perks and it's not taken as a field upgrade.
And I also managed to somehow forget to mention that reload cancelling is back in this game, so that's another thing that was kind of annoying with the previous games. Having reloading not being able to be cancelled did actually have an effect on your playstyle, because you could easily get killed during the animation. And we're also noticing that there's increased tac sprint durations depending on the certain weapon class that you're using, and in general, like increased strafe speeds and ADS movement. That stuff all kind of comes under the general movement feeling looser and just better, and faster mantling, being able to mantle faster while sprinting and stuff like that, and just having tac sprint recharge while sprinting.
So these are all very important things that have worked for old games, that have made the old games so good, and it's been implemented into a modern Call of Duty. And I think that alone makes this one of the best Call of Duties to date, if it does that, because you've not only got a new and improved Call of Duty, but it's doing everything the old games did good. And we all know the old Call of Duties had bad graphics, so for this game to have good graphics, it's a great combination to have the two hand in hand. So now I'm going to kind of go into the community and how they are listening. This is also a huge part about why I think this game is going to do so well and why it's going to be one of the best Call of Duties to date, is because the developers and even Activision, the publishers, they have had a very bad track record of not listening to the community. That's mainly why you've noticed this sort of downward slope of the games getting worse and worse. I mean, people could say that objectively they've gotten better, but in terms of the actual fun and how well they're received by the community, that has dropped quite a lot. There's been more and more complaints over the years than there ever has been since the old cards. It's because they don't listen. They just don't take into account what people want, and they don't care about the players. They will listen to some things, and other parts they will selectively choose not to listen to, and they keep putting out bad decisions that kills the games. But as we've seen with Modern Warfare 2, at the very start and up until now, well, even though there's been some things they haven't quite chosen to do differently, the majority of things they have actually gone ahead and changed, and they've been listening to the community quite adamantly since the start of Modern Warfare 2. And that kind of behavior, that kind of positive outlook on your game, actually looking out for what the community has to say, suggesting people to, report bugs if they see them or tell them what they could do better. The fact that they want you to do more of that and they want to change things and fix things really shows they're starting to have some interest or some care for the game. It could be that, or, maybe some of you are right. Maybe they're just doing it because they're desperate for money and they're losing players. I don't know, but Call of Duty still has millions of players, so I wouldn't say that that is entirely why they're doing it. I think there has to be some level of care or some sort of self-awareness to the point where they understand that their games are not looking good to the community. So they're actually listening, at least. They're doing their best to change things. Even if they haven't done everything that people want, they've done a lot. And there's only so much you can do as a developer. You can't literally do everything that people are saying, especially when you have a community that's saying one thing and the other side's saying the opposite, because then how can they make the decision without upsetting one half of the community? It doesn't work. So they try to take their own route, but they also have been listening, which is just basically what we need for Modern Warfare 3. So considering they have had that sort of positive reaction, they've been listening and all that for Modern Warfare 2, this for Modern Warfare 3 is nothing but a good sign, because this comes back to kind of like zombies and stuff, because with zombies, if people aren't interested in the outbreak mode, who's to say that they won't change things down the line? It's always possible. With developers willing to listen, that allows a lot more down the road. Not only does it mean there'll be more and more bugs fixed in a much timely manner at the start of the game, it also means that there's room for more changes down the game's lifespan. The game's already starting off with so much stuff that people have been asking for over these years, which shows they've been listening, but to have changed more things and add more things because they're listening only further proves that the game can keep improving. And if people really want round-based, which they do, to make very clear they do want it, they can always add that in. And if they didn't have this kind of attitude, they would probably never change it. They're definitely going to change things if people complain enough, and that's great because, like I say, all the Call of Duty games, if they did something one way, they would very, very likely not change it. They would stick to their guns and just go through with it regardless of what people are saying. But even if they've said certain stuff about this game and people don't like it, there's always the chance they will change it, which is good. That is definitely something we need for Call of Duty, and that alone means that this game is going to be a lot more improved in general because they've listened to the community since the start of the game. It's basically what Modern Warfare 2 should have been, let's be honest. It's just Modern Warfare 2 with everything we needed. Modern Warfare 2 would have been the best COD in recent years, but it didn't because they didn't do quite everything they set out to plan or do. Some things just didn't quite go to plan. The DMZ mode, for example, that was something they tried to do innovatively, but it wasn't a huge success, and let's say the movement they thought would be a little bit better and not too out of control, it ended up backfiring and, weighing people down and making movement less enjoyable. So they obviously understand now that they just have to go back to the old way of movement, and unless you want to say old, I guess you mean like the past few years, because it's not really that old. Slide cancelling, it's a pretty new thing, but yeah, just the fact that they're listening and balancing out what people want, having a well-rounded game. If they know that the game's well-rounded with lots of stuff at the very start, and even having all the other extra stuff, transferring from Modern Warfare 2, it's going to be a huge game, bigger than any of the other games, and that's all because they listen. Now, the final sort of general thing I want to talk about is what I call the Black Ops Cold War effect. This is the real deal. This is the thing that had me sat there in the bath just thinking whilst I was freezing my tits off. I was just thinking to myself, like, this is funny, because Cold War, I only just kind of added things together. Black Ops Cold War was actually one of the games from the recent years that had the least amount of development time. If you look at Vanguard, I think that was kind of a similar situation, except Vanguard was bound to flop because the theme was bound to fail to begin with, and no one's really a big fan of World War II, but people are a fan of Modern Warfare's theme, so that is a great start. Cold War did so well over Vanguard because the theme was obviously good to begin with. people knew it was a Treyarch game, but the fact is the game had about a year and a half of development, and that was a huge reason why a lot of people thought the game was going to fail. People looked at it and thought, this game's had a year and a half, there's no way this is going to be good, and yet at the end of its lifespan, it becomes this fully rounded game, and yet people still were saying so much shit about it. I even can recollect back to about 2 years ago, that game was getting me barely any views and any likes, and people were telling, I mean, they weren't actually saying this, but it was pretty obvious people didn't want to watch the Cold War content. And now, to this day, it's suddenly this renowned best COD of the recent years. And that's not just other people saying that. I agree with that sentiment. I've played it, and I thought, damn, this is actually just so much better, and it's so much simpler, but yet there's so much to do, and it's just kind of its own vibe, right? It's just a good game. And it made me think, does development time really matter? Because we are seeing the same thing in full action right now with Modern Warfare 3. A new game dropping with about a year and a half of development time, or if that, maybe a year, and people are giving it a load of shit. People are saying, this game cannot be good. There's no way it's going to be good because it's barely had enough development and it looks like Modern Warfare 2. Now, that is a fair judgment. I will say that. Having it look the same, that's, bound to make it at least a bit repetitive for some people. But keeping in mind, Modern Warfare 2 was originally going to get 2 years on it, so it doesn't really matter. Either way, you were going to get 2 years of Modern Warfare 2, or you're going to get the second year of the improved Modern Warfare 2 with new content and other new improved stuff added in. I think that's much better, if you ask me. So I'm not complaining. I think the fact is, this is going to be the game that generally does things better than Modern Warfare 2, and even if it has a year of development, that never stopped Black Ops Cold War from being this renowned best COD of the recent years. And yet, all these other games that have had way more development time than Cold War, they're still shat on to this day. A lot of people still don't like those games. A lot of people still talk a lot about how the games could have been better and how they had all these problems, but yet they had like 3 years of development. So it made me think, it really made me hard think about that. I was like, if Cold War can get away with having little development time, but becomes a fully rounded game by the end of it, imagine starting off with a fully rounded game that's only had the same amount of time as Cold War, and it becomes even more by the end of its timeline, by the end of its cycle. This game just has to blow Cold War out of the water. There's no way it can't. It's doing what Cold War did, but starting off with what Cold War has at the end of its life cycle, in a sense, or even more than that, because it has this crossover of Modern Warfare 2 content also, and then it's growing throughout of its life cycle to be even bigger and better with all the seasonal content drops. That's why I personally think this game is just going to have to be the best. It has to, because if Cold War can be the best, and this is going to do more than Cold War and revert to old Call of Duty, all whilst having a actively listening development team that's actually wanting to change stuff and do things the way people like it and starting the game off with things that people want to have in the game, it's going to be the best. That's my personal opinion. I don't really see how this game can really fuck up, other than bugs, which, can we just put that aside for 1 second? Like, seriously, I know people are going to, and this kind of goes out of the Cold War effect, to be honest. This is a general summary at this point. Like, can we just talk about, like, an overall for this game? I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say bugs are a problem. Bugs are commonplace for every game. That's a part of game development. There's always going to be bugs. They can be fixed, especially when they're listening to the community. We don't have to worry about the bugs. They will be fixed either way, and it doesn't really matter that much. So bugs aren't a detriment to the game. They can sometimes be game breaking, but they're usually fixed. And hell, even a game like Cold War has bugs that still haven't been fixed and people still play it. So there's no real reason to say that the game is a mess just because it has bugs, because Cold War has bugs and you still play it. I know you do. I'm looking at you guys. You play that game, you foam over that game, and it has bugs left, right, and center that still haven't been fixed. This game may have bugs, but it doesn't matter that much. They can be fixed. And I know there's another thing I can say as a summary for this game is a lot of people are going to look at it, like I say, and say it looks similar to Modern Warfare 2. It's still improved. It's improved in a lot of areas, and it's improved its movement, and I think that's the main thing Modern Warfare 2 needed. Modern Warfare 2 wasn't a bad game. It had good graphics. It had everything it needed. It just wasn't it. It just wasn't quite it because of movement. That was a massive letdown that I think kind of made the game less addictive. It made it kind of penalized you in a way. You couldn't really play the game and have fun because it felt like everything was kind of out of whack. So this game should actually be much more enjoyable, and I think it's going to be, again, the improved, updated Modern Warfare 2 with different content. That's the best way of putting it. So I think that's something that people are obviously going to say, but I obviously recognize that as well. And I just want to say, kind of in general, for this final summary, like, for all those people who don't like the game and are, you know, immediately getting their keyboards out in my comment section and tell me that I'm completely delusional to be thinking that this game's going to be good and, you know, calling me an Activision shill, just look at it this way. A lot of these people are going to say it's bad because of the fact that they do it every year. This is a common occurrence. People say the game's the worst, whether it's just because they're following the crowd and copying what everyone else is saying, or it's because they just have lost hope in the series. I understand why, and I don't blame you, in all fairness. I have lost a bit of hope, but part of me is saying, you know, if Modern Warfare 2 had a lot of hype behind it and a lot of other people were really excited to see another Modern Warfare game, and it was going to be this grand upgrade from Modern Warfare 2019, which lots of people did actually love, well, if we just ignore that Modern Warfare 2 existed in a way and look at Modern Warfare 3 as the true Modern Warfare 2, there's no reason not to be hyped, because it's what it should have been, and that's how I see it. In general, like I say, like, there's going to be people who just don't believe in it because they hate on it every year, or they just have lost their hope, but again, you never really know, because with an adapting game that has, you know, people willing to listen, anything can change, and obviously, like I say, there's so much old stuff coming back to this game, so many perfect systems that they should never have changed in the past, that we're not going to have to cry for them to change. They're going to be here off rip. The game's going to be working the way COD should work, an ideal COD should work. That alone should be hopeful for a lot of you people. You should actually be looking forward to that. So I guess with people who are just sort of in denial, saying they don't like COD but they buy it every year, I'm not too bothered about what they have to say. And the other kind of people are going to be the people who haven't touched COD in quite a lot of time. Like, they just play the old CODs, and I just have to say, like, again, those people probably won't believe that new CODs are good because they had one of them that left a bad taste in their mouth, and then they haven't touched COD since. Maybe they just are blinded by nostalgia. They like the old games, and that's fine. If you do think that the old Call of Duties are the best, you can keep playing them. But I still think if a game's going to do everything better, if this game's going to have great storytelling, better graphics, and has everything those old games did in terms of general play style and the system, that, like, everything works the way people have been begging for it to work for years, this game has to be better than those games, surely. Like, you have to give it a chance. There has to be at some point where you'll look at Modern Warfare 3 and think, this game is going to be better. I need to play this. I need to try it out. And you know, you do get to try it out. There's the beta. The beta will allow you to play the game in its early version and see how much of a difference it is to the past games we've had over these years. Yeah, maybe I'm making quite a push with this video. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, if you think I'm, you know, over-exaggerating a lot here, because I know I haven't played it yet, and none of us have, but based off what there is to come to this game, and based off the general trajectory that they've been taking, listening to the community, and just having things go back to the way they should have been, all of this coming into one, and just having new content, old content, crossover content from Modern Warfare 2, like multiple camo grinds, I mean, new guns, and then other guns that are swapped between the other games with other camos from that game, using skins that you've paid for from one game in the other one. All that is just what we need. It's just one good card wrapped up in one, and I think it's going to be exciting to see the way that this game goes in terms of its direction. So that's why I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is going to be the best Call of Duty. We'll just have to see. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. If you do enjoy my Modern Warfare 3 videos or anything to do with Modern Warfare 3, I have a Modern Warfare 3 playlist down below, as well as if you like my Call of Duty discussions, the playlist for that is down below. And if you're interested in my socials, they're down below as well as my Discord. If you're not getting notified for videos and you want to join my Discord, you can get notified for all videos in the Discord, as well as you can leave suggestions in there. With that being said, thank you everyone for watching. Let me know your opinions, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.